Join me as we learn Chitas for Friday, Parshas Vayechi, the sixth Torah reading, chapter 49, verse 27. Yesterday we learned how the next five sons and tribes received the blessings from Yaakov. Today we come to the final child of Yaakov, his youngest child. Binyamin gets his blessings, and it tells us about the passing of Yaakov. Binyamin, verse 27. Binyamin zeiv yitraf. Binyamin will be like a wolf that grabs baboiker in the morning. Yoichal eid, he will devour his plunder. V'la erev, and in the evening, yichalik shalal, he distributes his spoils. What is he referring to, and what does he mean here? Rashi, Binyamin zeiv yitraf. Binyamin is compared to a wolf. Ze'evu, a wolf asher yitraf acherim, that devours from others. Asher Yitraf, that devours from others. Nibal al, he now prophesies with his blessing on the tribe of Binyamin. Sheyu asida liyas chatfanim, they're going to be like wolves that grab things. What is this referring to? The chataftam lachem ish be'ishtei, that one will grab a man and his wife. Bepilegesh begiva, this is the story of Pilegesh begiva, a very tragic story that is described in the book of Judges, where people from the tribe of Binyamin killed a Pilegesh, a concubine that was staying in their place, and because of that, many of the tribes made a ban that they would not marry within the tribe of Binyamin, and because of that, the family of Binyamin or the tribe of Binyamin were looking for women to marry, and they would have to take from other tribes and looking to get women from there. V'nibal Shaul, he also was giving a prophecy about Shaul, who came from the tribe of Binyamin. She'enetziach ba'ivav, that will be victorious on his enemies, saviv, that are around him like a wolf. Shnemer, as it says, Shaul lochad hamalucha ve'yelachem saviv b'moyav ube'edem b'chol asher yifnei yarshia. That Shaul was successful in all the surroundings, that he was able to overcome and take the enemies that were there. Ba'beikar yichalad lashim bizav Shaul, in the morning he will eat. In the morning he will devour the plunder. Meaning, Lashon Bizav Shaul, the plunder that he got, Hamaturgam Adah, like we find this in the different wars, the same use the terminology of Ad or Adah. We also find other times that this is used as well. We find this terminology that Ad means spoils that they would get. This is also found by King Saul, who Yaakov is saying that because he was appointed as the king, he was the one that was appointed as a king at first with a horn, and he was the first one who was the first king of the Jewish people. So therefore, he calls them in the morning. They eat their plunder. They'll devour their plunder, meaning that Shaul was going to be the first one to lead the Jewish people. Erev yichalik shalom, which is referring to the time of exile, which is compared to evening. Even when the time is dark for the Jewish people, when the sun goes down of the Jews, through Nebuchadnezzar, that he will exile them to Babylonia, even then, there will be people from the tribe of Binyamin that will lead the Jewish people, referring to the time of Mordechai and Esther. That they come from the tribe of Binyamin. They are going to split up the spoils of Haman. Shnemer, as it says in the book of Esther, behold, the house of Haman I gave to Esther, of Unklum Targim, and Unklis explains it as the spoils of the Kohanim in the time of the Kachei Amigdash that they give at night, the leftovers that they split amongst the Kohanim to eat. Now that he concluded blessing all the tribes, as the Torah tells us, verse 28. Kol eila shiftei Yisrael, all of these are the tribes of Israel, Shnei Masar 12. This is what their father spoke to them, and he blessed them, each person with their appropriate blessing, he blessed them individually. Rashi 28. However, if you look, why do you say each one of them was individually blessed, but the first three were not blessed? Ela Kintram, he actually rebuked them, Ruvain, Shimon, and Levi. Ela Kach Pirushe, but this is the explanation of the verse. This is what their father spoke to them. Mashanemer Be'inyim, what he spoke to them, each one, according to their subject. Yachal, you would think, Shalei Beirach Ruvain, Shimon, and Levi. You might think that he didn't bless Ruvain, Shimon, and Levi, and he only rebuked them. Talmud Leimar. Therefore, the verse tells us, he blessed them as well. Kulam b'mashma, that he blessed every single one of them, each person according to their blessing. He blessed them about what will happen to each one of them. He He blessed them individually. He could have already said that each person just he blessed them individually. Why does he have to conclude by saying he blessed them? I understand he blessed them individually. That means he blessed them. What's it telling us? Why does he tell us that he blessed them in plural? Because he gave to Binyamin the strength, gave to Yehuda the strength of a lion. And to Binyamin he gave the grabbing of a wolf. Naphtali, and to Naphtali he gave Kalus Shalayil, the swiftness of a deer. Yachal, I would think that they were only blessed with these, and he didn't include the other ones. He did not include all of them in all of the blessings. Therefore, he says, bless them, though he may have gave particular blessings to individual sons, but all of them were included in all of the blessings that all of them got. Verse 29. And he commanded them, saying, and he said to them, I am about to gather unto my people. Bury me together with my forefathers. In the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite. Verse 29, Rashi, Nesaf Alami. Why is it called I am gathering? Al Shem Shemachnisan and Afashis. Because the souls go back al Mokim Kaninazas in the place where they are hidden, the place where they are there initially in the world to come. Sheyesh Asifa Balashnivari, the point of the word gathering in Hebrew, She Loshin Achnasa means bringing in to the appropriate place. Kegoyin, for example, Ve'nishmas Avesam Abaisa, there was nobody bringing them home. Vasafti al Tech Vasechel, you'll bring it to your house. When you gather your wheat, Achnasasam Labais Mipnei Kshamim, bringing into the home because of the rain. When you gather your work. Anytime you find the word gather when a person's dying, it means bringing the soul back to its eternal resting place. Elavaisai, to my fathers, meaning imavaisai, with my fathers. Verse 30. Ba'ma'ora, where are you going to bury me? Ba'ma'ora asher b'stei machpelah, in the cave that's in the field of the machpelah, al pnei mamre, asher al pnei mamre, which is on the plains of Mamre, in the face of facing the plains of Mamre, Be'eretz Canaan, in the land of Canaan, asher kana Avram es hasada, that Avram already bought this field, Be'yeis Ephraim Achiti, from Ephraim the Chita at Lachuz Askever, for a burial property. Verse 31, Shama covered was Avram, there was buried Avram v'Sarishta, and Sarah his wife. Shama covered was Yitzchak, there was buried Yitzchak v'Rivka Ishta, and Rivka his wife. Shama kavarti as Leah, and there I buried Leah as well. 32, Mikna Hasad of Ama'ora, the purchase of the field in the cave, Asher Boy, that was, and the cave that's in it, Me'es Pnei Ches, was done from the Hittites. With this, Yaakov continues to tell his children the rules of when he passes, that he only wants Jewish people, not to allow the Egyptians to help carry his coffin. Only the 12 tribes were going to carry him, as we're going to see later on, as the Torah tells us. Verse 33, Vayichal Yaakov l'David as Spanav, and Yaakov concluded giving his instructions to his sons. Vayesef raglav alamita, and he drew his feet up onto his bed. Vayigva, and he breathed his last. Vayasef al Amav, and he was gathered unto his people. Vayesef raglav, Rashi explains, verse 33. This also means hichnis raglav, he put his feet on his bed. Vayigva vayosaf umisa le'nem rabai. Why doesn't it use the terminology death by Yaakov? And our sages tell us in the tractate of Tainus, Yaakov Avinu Leimes, that Yaakov did not die. He lives for eternity because his children are alive, so therefore he is alive as well. Verse 34. Chapter 50, verse 1. As soon as Yaakov passes, Vayipol Yosef, and Yosef fell on his father, al pnei aviv, on his father's face, vayivkalof, and he wept over him, vayishak loi, and he kissed him. Verse 2, vayitzav Yosef es avodav es harifim, and Yosef then ordered his servants, the physicians, lachnet es aviv, to embalm his father, vayichantu harifim es Yisrael, so the physicians embalmed Yisrael, his father. What does the word embalming mean? What is the word lachnet? Inyan merkachas pesamim. This was taking a mixture of incense, that they would smear it on the dead person to preserve it, that it should not rot, and give it a good smell. And when 40 days, his 40 days have passed, because that was the time that was required for embalming. And the Egyptians mourned for a total of 7 days. That means an additional 30 days, 40 days of embalming, and then, as we know, the 30 days of Shloshim, the 30 days of, which is a total of 70 days. Rashi, they can, in addition to the time of embalming, they let it go for 40 days. 40 days of embalming, and 30 for crying. Why were they crying and mourning Yaakov's passing so much? Because they realized because of Yaakov, they received a blessing, that the hunger stopped. Also, because of at that time the river of the Nile River would come up and overflow, and this way all of Egypt was then fed with water. And because of that, they realized Yaakov's blessing that he brought to Egypt, and they mourned his passing for 30 days, 70 days total. Verse 4. And it passed. The days of weeping were over. And Yosef spoke to the house of Pari, Lamar, saying, if you find favor in your eyes, please speak to Pharaoh as follows. Verse 5. My father bound me by an oath, saying, behold, I'm going to die, and I would like you to bury me in the grave that I have purchased. Beretz Canaan, in the land of Canaan, Shama tikbereni, there you should bury me. Va'ata elana, and now please go up to the land of Israel. Va'ekbaras avishuma, I would like to go to the land of Israel and bury my father there. Va'shuva, and then I will return. Rashi, verse 5, Asher karisili kipshutei. Simple interpretation is that I dug it out. Kimoi ki yechre ishber, when a person will dig out a ditch. However, the Medrash explains it even better, the meaning it sits better with the terminology, that I bought it. Amar Rabbi Akiva said, when I went to the cities of the sea, I used to hear that they would use the word, that they would use the word to purchase as digging. And therefore the word karisi can also mean purchasing. The word karisi comes like a pile, degur, meaning that Yaakov took all the money that he received, the gold and silver that he got from the house of Lavan, and he made it into a big mound, into a pile. And he told Esav, tell Zed, take all this money, because I want to get your portion in the cave of the patriarchs. Verse 6, and Pari told him, go and bury your father, like you swore to him. Verse 6, what does it mean like you swore to him? But if not for that oath, I would not know you. Why did Pharaoh say only because of the oath? He explains as follows. Pharaoh is afraid to tell Pharaoh, why don't you just transgress on the oath? Who cares about the oath? Don't listen to it. Why? Because because then Yosef can tell Pharaoh, if you tell me not to follow my father's oath, I'll say I won't follow your oath that I made to you. I will not reveal to the Egyptians that I know one language more than you and I know Hebrew. One language more than the 70 languages. And you don't know it. And the law in Egypt was that the king had to know all 70 languages. And if you don't know the language, and I know it, then I should be king. So if you make me go against the oath that I made to my father, I'll go against the oath that I made to you, and I'll be able to bury him anyway. Like it says in Masechta Seita. Verse 7. So Yosef went up to the land of Canaan to bury his father. And went with him all the and with him went all Pharaoh's servants, Ziknei Beisei v'chol Ziknei Mitzrayim, the elders of his court and the elders of Egypt. Verse 8, v'chol Beis Yosef, and all of the family, the household of Yosef, Echav and his brothers, Beis Aviv, and his father's household, Rak, Tapam, V'tzainam, only their small children and their flock, Ubekarim and their cattle, Ozvu Beretz Goshen, they left in the land of Goshen. Verse 9, Vayali megam rechav gam proshim, and with them left also chariots and horsemen that went up with them. And it was a very sizable retinue of people that were traveling. This entourage was a lot of people. Verse 10. And they came to Goren Ha'atad, Asher be'ivra Yarden, that's on the other side of the Jordan. Vayispadu Sham, and they conducted a great eulogy for him there. Mispeit Gadol, a lot of a ceremony of lamentations. V'chaved mi'oid, in a very great way. Vayas la'aviv evel shivas yamim. And at that point, Yosef made for his father a 7-day mourning period, which today we know is called Shiva. Verse 10, Geiren Ha'atad. Why was it called Geiren Ha'atad? And that is because it was surrounded by hedges of thorns, as he explains as follows. Rashi. Because Mukaf Atadin Haya, it had a big area that was surrounded with hedges, hedges that were surrounded of thorns. Rabbi Seinu Darshu, the rabbis explain Al Shem Amur, because actually an episode that happened in that place. When they saw that Egypt was approaching, and they all came out, the kingdoms of Canaan and the leaders of Yishmaelite came to war against the children of Yaakov. However, once they saw the crown of Yosef, totally by the initial Yaakov, was hanging on the coffin of Yaakov, they realized who this great individual was. They all stuck back. They took off their crowns and hung it on the coffin. And the entire coffin was surrounded with crowns. Like an orchard that is surrounded with a fence of thorns. Verse 11. And the people of the land, when the Canaan inhabitants of the land saw the mourning in the Geiren Ha'atad, the mourning in Geiren Ha'atad, when they said, this must be a very great mourning terrible mourning for the Egyptians, of the Egyptians. Therefore they called that place Evel Mitzrayim, Egypt's mourning, Asher be'ivra Yarden, which is beyond the Jordan. Verse 12. Vayasu banav loy Cain kasher tzivam. And Yaakov's sons did for him exactly as he instructed them. Kasher tzivam. Rashi, mao asher tzivam. What was it that he instructed them? We look in the next verse, what it was that he instructed them. Verse 13. Vayiswei say banav to Canaan, and the sons therefore carried him to the land of Canaan. And they buried him in the field, the cave of the Machpelah. That Avram bought as Hasad Alach was his kever, that he bought it for a place to be buried. From Ephron the Chitat al Pnei Mamre, which was facing the property of Mamre. 13, Rashi, Vayisu Oisai Banav, and his brothers carried him. Only his brothers, that his sons carried him. And not the grandchildren. This is the way Yaakov commanded. Do not allow any of the Egyptians to carry my coffin, and neither any of your children, which their children were then born to women that were Canaanite women. Only you. And he set where each one of them should be, standing, 3 on each side, and that's the way all 12 were carrying him, only his sons. The same way later on in the book of Numbers, when we talk about the tribes of the Jewish people carrying 3 tribes of each side of the tabernacle, that was the exact setup of how they were standing in position when they were carrying Yaakov's coffin. Levi, however, Lo Yisa. Levi was the only one that was not going to carry. Shahu Asid Lasis is Aaron, because he was going to have to carry the Ark of the Covenant. The Yosef Lo Yisa. Yosef also did not carry Lefishu Melech, because he's a king and it's not respectful. Menashe and Ephraim, who were the ones that took Yosef and Levi's place, was Menashe and Ephraim. They would be the ones to carry. They were the only ones of the grandchildren that were able to carry. That's why if you look later on in the book of Numbers, and it says, that each one according to its tribe and according to the signs of their father, but in the sign, the same way they were told to carry their father's coffin, that's the same way they would travel around the ark, and that's the way they would travel in the desert. Verse 14. Vayashav Yosef Mitzrayim, and Yosef returned to Egypt, him and his brothers, and all those that went with him, Likpedes Aviv, to bury his father, Achre Kovre is Aviv, after burying his father. Rashi, all those that went with him. Why does the Torah change? B'chazarasan, Kan. Over here, when they went back, Hiktim, he first counts Yosef and the brothers, and before the Egyptians that went with him, but when they went to the land of Canaan, Hiktim and Mitzrayim, he mentions the Mitzrayim before his brothers, and only afterwards the brothers of Yosef. Ella, the reason why he did this was because the Egyptians did not have that respect that they allowed the children of Yaakov to go before them. They considered themselves important, and therefore they went first. However, Lefishah, once the Egyptians saw Kavich Asamach Canaan, the great respect that even the kingdom of Canaan did for Yaakov, that they put their crowns on Yaakov's coffin, then they had a whole new respect for Yaakov, for the sons of Yaakov. Verse 15. And the brothers of Yosef saw that their father has passed. When they said to each other, Lu yistemenu, Yosef. Perhaps Yosef is nursing a hatred towards us. V'hashiv yashiv lanu eskalara, and he will reciprocate or repay us for all the bad. Asher gamalnu say that we did to him. Now that father's gone, maybe he's going to get back at us for everything we did to him. Rashi, 15. Vayiru esechav. Vayiru ache Yosef k'meisavim. Ma vayiru, what does it mean they saw? Hikiru. They recognized, they felt it. It was bothering them. The misase that their father was missing, Eitzel Yosef by Yosef. Because it used to be very often, that they would sit together at the same table, Al Shulchani Shal Yosef, together by Yosef, that when Yosef would have his father over, and he would have all his brothers over by his table. But once after Yaakov died, he never invited them to their meal. So they realized that there's a change in attitude. Something changed here. Lu Yistamenu, what does this mean? Shema Yistamenu, maybe he has some type of hatred that's within him. Lu is chalik linyanim. The word lu can mean many different things. Yesh lu mishamish b'lashem bakasha. There could be a lu which means please. Ulashin halavai, if only. If only your words will be this way. Lu shemeinu, please listen to us. Lu hayalnu, if only you will come there. Lu masnu. V'yesh lu malashin im. And there can also be lu, which can also mean if. If he is intelligent. Lu gishaftum says, if you would only listen to my mitzvahs. V'lu aneichi shekel akapai. V'yesh lu mashamish b'lashin shema. There could be lu that can also mean maybe, like in our case. Lu yistamenu. Maybe he has some hate against us. There are not too many other similarities in the verse. Uloshin ulay k'may ulay loy said l'chish acharesh uloshin shema yesh ulay b'loshin bakasha ulay yirah Hashem b'einai ulay Hashem oisi rikmay lu yichid v'necha. The word lu is very similar to the word ulay, that it can also mean if only or maybe and if, as we find as ulay yesh chamishim, maybe there are 50 righteous people. Verse 16. Vayitzavu Yosef Leimer, and therefore they said, they commanded to Yosef, so they had this message conveyed to Yosef. Leimer saying, your father has given the following instruction before he died. What does it mean by Yitzavu Yosef? They didn't tell it, but they sent the messenger to Yosef saying, El Bnei Yisrael. He told Moshe and Aaron to be his messengers, El Bnei Yisrael, to the Jewish people. Also in this case, they sent a message to be their shliach, to tell Yosef the following statement. El Yosef Leimer, they came to tell him this. Who did they tell this to? It's Bnei Vila, the children of Vila. Because he got along very well with the children of Vila, they sent these sons to tell Yosef the following message. Avicha tziva, your father commanded, shinu badavar. They changed. Why? Even though it wasn't true, because their father never said such a thing. Because of peace. Yaakov Cain, Yosef Beinov. Yaakov would have never said such a thing, because in his eyes, Yosef would never do such a thing. He never would think that Yosef would bear a grudge against his brothers. So therefore, Yaakov never said anything of the such. However, they said that he said it because when it comes to peace, one is able to exaggerate or change things for the sake of peace. So you should tell Yosef, please now forgive your brothers, and their sins, their transgressions, and the bad that they have done to you, how they have treated you. So now please forgive their crime. The God of our fathers, the servants of God of your fathers. Yosef, and Yosef cried, Bedabram a love, when they were telling him this message. Son of Lepesha Avdeleke Avicha, Im Avicha, meaning what are they saying over here? They're depending their forgiveness in the fact that they are servants of God. Im Avicha Meis, if your father died and therefore you're not concerned about his honor, Elikov, at least think about his God. Kayim is around, V'im Avadav, and we are his servants. Vayelchu Gamechav, and his brothers then went. Vayiplu Lefanav, and they fell before him, they threw themselves before him. Vayomru, and they said, Hinenu l'chol avadim, we are hereby your servants. Verse 18, Vayelchu Gamechav, Musav al-Shlichus, besides sending the messenger with the children of Bilah, they came along afterwards and also said that they will be his servants. Vayemer aleim Yosef, and Yosef said to them, Al tiro, don't be afraid. Ki achsachas alikimani, for am I in the place of God? Rashi, ki achsachas alikimani. He said this in a question. Shema bimkoimani, am I the one to be able to avenge for God? Ima yisirei alechem, kulumani yachol. Even if I wanted to do something bad to you, I'm not able to. I'm not God. You all thought about me that this was going to be a bad thing. You wanted to harm me. God switched it all upside down and made it the best thing. So you see, if you couldn't harm me, you couldn't do any bad to me, and God switched it around, how do you think that I'm going to be able to do bad to you? Verse 20, as he sees it. You planned to do, intended to do bad, harm to me. But God intended it for good. So in order to bring things to the way they are today, to save many people. This concludes the Torah reading for Friday, the 6th Torah reading of Parshas Vayechi.